And former US President Donald Trump is back in news. We discussed his latest indictment, his third in fact. And now, the former US President, he's pleaded not guilty in this latest arraignment.
Yeah, of course, he's definitely been calling all the charges absolutely nonsensical and has been blaming the Biden administration. This is the third indictment in 4 months. Trump appeared in the Washington court on Thursday to face criminal charges on his wide-ranging attempts to overturn the 2020 election and also over his role on the January 6th Capitol riots.
I believe at this point it was only expected. Now, Trump and his allies have been accused of promoting false claims that the 2020 election was rigged, as well as pressuring state and federal officials to alter the results. Trump faces charges on 4 felony counts, including conspiracy to defraud U.S., conspiracy to obstruct an official proceeding, obstruction of an official proceeding, as well as conspiracy against the rights of citizens. The most serious charge carries a maximum prison sentence of 20 years.
Exactly. Now, Trump has been released on minimal conditions that bar him to communicate with anyone known to be a witness in the case unless through an attorney. Trump is a frontrunner of the 2024 Republican presidential nominations, and he has been defiant in his response to the indictment. He called it persecution of a political opponent. Listen to this.
This is a very sad day for America. And it was also very sad driving through Washington, D.C. and seeing the filth and the decay and all of the broken buildings and walls and the graffiti. This is not the place that I left. It's a very sad thing to see it. When you look at what's happening, this is a persecution of a political opponent. This was never supposed to happen in America. This is the persecution of the person that's leading by very, very substantial numbers in the Republican primary and leading Biden by a lot.
Trump's latest arraignment follows his court appearance in 2 other cases. One in the New York State charges for his 2016 campaign hush money scheme, as well as the federal prosecution in Florida that alleges him for mishandling classified documents. Despite all the legal woes, Trump's presidential campaign has only strengthened as he has been leading in polls, suggesting that he remains the first public choice over his Republican rivals.
Now, for more on this, we earlier spoke with our correspondent Susan Tehrani from New York. Susan explains what the presidential race is looking like in the backdrop of these indictments. Listen in.
Many believe that the Democrats ultimately want Donald Trump to become the 2024 Republican nominee so he can have a rematch with Joe Biden. And with each indictment, it seems like he will be. If the current situation is any indication, however, the election campaign will be saturated with rallies and courtrooms, and that's where the coverage, at least from the media, will focus on. Well, understandably. And other candidates, however, will have the disadvantage of not being able to really show themselves or talk about their policies. And if there is a debate between Joe Biden and Donald Trump, well, one will focus on the other's age, while the other will focus on quote-unquote criminal activities and indictments. The question that many are asking is whether or not these charges against former President Donald Trump really have a merit. And if they don't, well, the warning is that it's creating a very dangerous precedent.
Susan also shares just how serious these charges are and what kind of challenges they pose for the former president.
Some legal analysts believe that these are the most serious charges leveled against the former president, but they're also the hardest to prove by special counsel Jack Smith and his team. After all, there hasn't really been any new evidence against the former president after that January 6th panel convened with the Democrats leading the charge. And since this is uncharted territory and no one has basically ever been charged for what they've said or thought, Donald Trump ultimately may be able to take this case all the way to the Supreme Court on the merits of his First Amendment rights.
Now, for more on this, we're also being joined by foreign policy analyst Edward P. Joseph, joining us live from Washington, D.C. He's a senior fellow at the Johns Hopkins University School of Advanced International Studies. Thank you so much for joining us. Always a pleasure to have you on the show.
You're welcome.
Now, sir, having taking a look at the charges against Trump: conspiracy to defraud the United States, conspiracy to obstruct an official proceeding, conspiracy against the rights of citizens. It's a long list. The charges are serious. What sort of an impact do you think this will have on his presidential run?
We can see, of course, that in the short term, it seems to be providing Donald Trump a boost in the Republican primary campaign, but that's not how you become president in the United States. You don't become president just by winning a primary. Hillary Clinton won the primaries and became the Democratic nominee, and she lost to Donald Trump in 2016. You have to win a general election. And these indictments will not and cannot serve Donald Trump well in a general election. They simply cannot, because in a general election, it's a fight in the very close states, the states that we call the battleground. And the base is not the determinative factor in the battleground. And let's remember that these types of indictments also energize the Democratic base. So they alienate independents and they energize the Democratic base. So it can be that the Republican base of fanatics who disregard the evidence. And I should point out here, in order to support Donald Trump, it's not that you have to listen to Jack Smith, the prosecutor in this case. You only have to listen to another Republican candidate, Mike Pence, Donald Trump's former vice president, who today made it very clear as he has ever done, that in fact, Donald Trump instructed him to, in Mike Pence's words, overturn an election. Please.
Edward, I just want to take it further from there. Like you said, that there can be some short-term benefits that Trump may have from what is happening currently. In spite of the charges, polls show that Trump remains the first public choice over his Republican rivals in the presidential race. Does this reflect on Trump's popularity, or does it speak about the fact that his Republican competitors, they aren't making the cut even now? Who does this reflect on more?
Let's look always at this electoral system that we have in the U.S., these primaries, the primary system that we have. In the primaries, it's the fanatics who rule. So those are the ones, and it means that not only is today's polling showing Trump with a lead, when the primaries begin to actually occur next year, it's very likely that Trump could win, because the turnout in primary elections among both Republicans and Democrats, it is generally low, and those who turn out are the most extreme, the most energized, the most determined. And of course, those will tend to be Donald Trump supporters. So it does look like he would have an advantage. But what we don't know is as time goes on, as comments by Mike Pence and others, including Chris Christie, former governor of New Jersey, and others who are in the Republican campaign, begin to attack Trump, we have to see the kind of impact that will have. And let's finally point out this. For a candidate who had big hopes, like Ron DeSantis, the governor of Florida, he sees that his approach of laying off Trump and backing him on these kind of prosecutions doesn't help him. So it's possible that DeSantis, Nikki Haley, I should point out, of Indian heritage, also may begin to have sharper attacks on Donald Trump, and we have to see the impact of that. Please.
Right. Mr. Joseph, that being said, do you see some sort of irony here that his legal woes are mounting just as we're getting closer to the 2024 presidential run?
Well, that's how the evidence rolls. That's a fact of the timetable. And we should point out here that Jack Smith has not been appointed as a prosecutor for all that long. He has moved fast. If you speak to or look and watch any true legal expert, they will tell you that these indictments in the classified documents case and in this case are quite serious. There's nothing frivolous about this. You talk about free speech. That's not really the issue. Donald Trump, he was not charged, for example, this is quite important. He's not charged with that speech on January 6th for the crime of sedition. There's no such crime of fomenting an insurrection or a sedition. That is not charged here by Jack Smith. So the question of free speech is not really present. It's a conspiracy is what is charged here. That's an agreement to commit a crime. That's often behind closed doors. And plus, we know the evidence, some of the evidence for that is public. We know, for example, that famous phone call when on audio tape, anyone can hear it, where Donald Trump pressuring the Secretary of State in the state of Georgia to find him those votes. Now, anyone who has a fair mind knows that this is wrong, and we have also the backing again of Mike Pence himself, who says he was told to overturn the results. Please.